Good morning, all. We'll call this meeting to order for the Amador County Board of Supervisors. For Tuesday, August 25th, 2026, the board just met in closed session. Item 1, direction was given. Item 2, direction was given. 2A, the claim was denied. The addendum, direction was given, and the confidential minutes were approved 5-0. So we'll move on to open regular session. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Public matters not on the agenda is first. Discussion items only, no action to be taken. Any person may address the board on this time on any subject within our jurisdiction. However, any matter that takes action may be referred to staff and or committee for a report and recommendation for application at a subsequent board meeting. Please note there's a 3-minute limit, and if you would sign in when you come to the podium. Glenn, welcome.
Director Glenn Spitzer. I just want to introduce our new airport director to everybody, Eric Anderson, and Dave Shepard retiring. And so we're lucky to have Eric here. And Eric he was an FBI agent for 23 years. I think that's a really interesting fact about him. And 3 years exclusively flying for the FBI. And if you want to say some words about yourself.
I've been flying for over 30 years. I'm real excited to try and advance what Dave's put into the airport for the last nearly 3 decades. And I just want to pitch Wings and Wheels October 3rd, come out and visit your airport and get some good things going on. Thank you.
All right. Welcome, Eric. Dave, enjoy your retirement.
Getting a divorce from the airport.
Any other public? Yes. Good morning.
Let me sign in real quick.
Yeah. Get the evil eye from Heather if you don't.
Okay, I don't want the evil eye. Okay, good morning supervisors, staff, and county council and county administrator. My name is Diane Severud, and I am the community coordinator at the Murphy Senior Center. Why am I here? Well, we have an exciting opportunity for you, members of your community, and your staff, and I wanted to tell you about it. So we, the Murphy Senior Center and its partners, are hosting a longevity and lifestyle conference at Ironstone Vineyards in Murphy's on October 15th, 2026. It will be from doors open at 8 a.m., programming starts at 9 and goes until 3. The Longevity and Lifestyle Conference will feature local and national experts presenting current brain research and aging trends. The conference has been planned for both the general public and those working in the health and age-related professions. The program agenda includes Q Lee from the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, Claire Day from the Alzheimer's Association, Dr. Beatrice Marone of UC Davis, and our keynote speaker is Dr. Selena Bartlett, an internationally recognized neuroscientist and thought leader in brain health. Traveling from Queensland, Australia, Dr. Bartlett is excited to spread the word that brain health is everyone's business, discover how healthy habits and stronger connections can help us live longer and truly build thriving lives. Speaker bios and lecture topics can be found at the Murphy's Senior Center website, which is murphyscenter.com. As I said, the event will be held at Ironstone Vineyards. The cost is $15 per person, and breakfast and lunch are provided. This event is sponsored by the Alzheimer's Association, the Mark Twain Healthcare District, Adventist Health Sonora, Adventist Health Home Care, and Dignity Health Mark Twain Medical Center. In its 17th year, the Murphy Senior Center provides exercise, and social activities for older adults on the Highway 4 corridor in Calaveras County. As a nonprofit, the Murphy's Senior Center operates the Murphy's Food Pantry and the Murphy's Thrift Store. The Murphy Senior Center is located at 65 Mitchler Street in Murphy's and is open Monday through Friday from 9 to 3. We're hoping that we will see all of you there and that you will inform your community members and your staff that this is a great opportunity to hear some great leading research in living better lives. Thank you.
What was that date again?
It's October 15th, and I have a flyer that I'll give to the clerk for you.
Please, thank you. I'm
Thank
just gonna ask for that. All right, anyone else? Yes, good morning.
I have an event announcement as well. I'll sign in first.
State your name too, please.
Is it at the fairgrounds?
All right. My name's Carly Amethysto Smith. I'm the Community Education Specialist for the UC Master Gardeners and Master Food Preservers. So I'm here to remind you about an event that we have coming up. We were here maybe a month ago, and we talked about the kitchen kits project that we're working with the library on. It's a program that we're doing with the Community Health and Nutrition program with UCA&R, the Master Food Preservers, as well as the County Library. And we're going to be providing food preservation and food preparation equipment at the library for checkout. So anyone can come and check out some equipment. The goal is to increase home cooking, so people do more in their own kitchens if they have the equipment that they can borrow. So the event I'm announcing is our Kitchen Kits launch party, which will be September 9th from 12:30 to 3 p.m. And it will be at the county library, and it'll be at the Scout Hut. So people can come and learn more about the program and the kits, and we'll have some snacks and things if people want to ask questions about it. So I will give you a flyer, and then I'll leave the rest in the back hall, as well as our bookmarks with our classes.
Okay. Thank you. I thought you were gonna tell us about Farm Day.
Me too.
Yes, that too. Ariel, I think you announced the date for Farm Day? Yeah.
September 24th?
Yeah. We'll be there as well. We're going to be doing dehydrated apple
Okay.
roll-ups.
Great,
Okay, thanks.
thank you. Anyone else?
I always have Farm Day and a Board of Supervisors meeting day.
Yay.
Any Zoomers?
No, not at this time.
Supervisor Brown,
Thank you.
we could do it 4A, but it would kind of blur if CSAC is, that's a specific, so
Understand.
we'd like to have your report on that.
Yes, Thursday, August 20th, I attended the California State Association of Counties. And so we went over and reviewed a lot of the propositions that are coming up on this ballot. And Proposition 2 increases state rainy day fund. It was interesting that the executive county recommended support, but through a lot of conversations with some of the smaller counties, I will say, they changed it to a no position. And so CSAC will be doing a no position on Proposition 2. Then Proposition 3, providing permanent funding for schools and healthcare by extending existing taxes on high incomes. They did go with the support on that. Proposition 43 limits ability to raise revenue for local government services. CSAC opposed that. There was a lot of conversation on that one, pro and con. Proposition 1, the Veterans and Affordable Housing Bond Act, 2026. The Executive Committee recommended support, and the board agreed. It was still a good conversation. As a veteran myself, that they always loved putting veterans' name in the front, but if you actually looked at the numbers, it's more the Affordable Housing and Homeless Bond Acts sitting that are getting the biggest numbers. So that was kind of But what I would highly recommend is anybody wanting to know more about this, and other than the quick little speech I'm doing right now, is look up the agenda for CSAC for August 20th. And there is a very nice handout with a lot of information that people could find more information about, and it's very well done. And that's all I have.
Did they take a stand on 40?
No, they did not. Everything else,
They're leaving that one alone?
yeah, the Proposition 45, they also, CEQA, there is a good informational packet on that, but they took no position on that one also.
Okay.
But the thing is, that on the CEQA one, the one thing they did describe is all the sponsors of that are all the builders.
All right, we have a Zoomer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Caller, go ahead when ready, and please state your name for the record.
Hello.
Serena, were you looking to speak?
Yes, can you hear me now? It wouldn't let me unmute, I'm sorry.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, am I too late for public comment? I tried to raise my hand in time and then
No.
you guys moved on kind of quickly.
Oh, no.
Please go ahead.
Okay, great. I just wanted to, first of all, my name's Serena Hangs. I was here about a month ago presenting the petition for safety on Upper Ridge Road. And I want to thank you guys for everything that you've been doing to address our community's concerns. It sounds like you guys have been openly discussing it on a regular basis. I think there might have been some miscommunication throughout, like all of the emails that have been going back and forth and the phone calls and voicemails. So I just wanted to come before you guys today and get some clarification on what the next step is going to be. It sounded like you guys wanted to meet beforehand, before getting it on the agenda, to discuss what can and cannot be done legally. Is that something we cannot discuss with it being on the agenda and we have to meet prior?
Well, actually, Sarah,
It's Serena.
Karina, all right, Karina.
Serena with that.
Serena,
Okay.
got it, okay. The agenda is a summation of studying the problem and seeing what different departments can do and then bringing it to the agenda for a solution over, we've identified a problem, here's the two solutions, or a third, we can't do anything. This is still in the talking stages. We had a 1 hour meeting yesterday about this very topic, trying to figure out what we can and can't do, and we're nowhere near being ready to agendize that.
Okay. So would we like to meet prior, as Logan had offered meeting prior, maybe in the county building? I don't know if that's something we want to do, maybe like on Zoom as well, so the petition signers can have access to that as well. That might be an option. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I'm always willing to meet.
Yeah. I don't want to speak for Supervisor Carnell.
Happy to meet. We could set up a time.
Okay, and is that something we can share like publicly with the petition signers so that they can have access to that information as well, since they are part of that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Logan, I did send you an email this morning, and I apologize for the timing of it. You probably were in a meeting, but if we can continue from there, that would be greatly appreciated.
Sounds great. I'll check it out as soon as this meeting's over.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
And Serena, we are trying to come up with a short checklist of what can and cannot be done. So you would have some
Yes,
information before we even meet with Logan.
That's great. I really appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? No more Zoomers? Supervisors? Okay. Approval of items on the agenda. We're going to approve the agenda.
So move. Second.
All right, motion by Supervisor Brown, second by Supervisor Epperson to approve the agenda as presented. Any public comment on the agenda? Now we'll call for the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Approval of items on the consent agenda.
Move to approve? Oh, we gotta go to public, sorry.
Yeah, any public comment on the consent agenda items?
Nothing.
We're getting there.
Consent.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Supervisor Carnell needs to recuse his, I think,
I'll recuse myself from this.
on just one item probably, but
The-
My wife's on
yeah, his item.
consent agenda. Judge Day asked her to serve on a board, and so we're approving that she's serving on the board.
I don't know if it matters or not. If it
There
doesn't.
would be there's no financial
Okay.
benefit
No
or,
problem.
Oh, there is. I'm gonna have to cook dinner for myself. So,
I don't think he has to recuse.
Okay, very good. I just want to bring that up. Thank you. All right, no problem.
That's culinary, not financial.
That's fair.
okay.
All right.
Yeah, I would go buy my dinner, so
Yeah. You're actually working on economic development.
I am.
Yeah, so,
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
thank you Supervisor Epperson.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Ornetto. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now we are on the regular agenda, 4A. Discussion and possible action relative to the support by CSAC of opposition to anticipated legislation that would limit the liabilities by different entities relative to wildfire caused by these entities. Do you want to lead this off, Supervisor Brown?
Actually,
Do we
this-
ha- you
This
wanna-
one's an interesting one. So there's no actual law going in front of legislation right now. This is coming down from our governor, and warning signs came through CSAC. And so there's nothing actually physically on the SB or AB or anything else like that. But as the rumor is going, as this whole system is happening, it's being pushed to limit PG&E's to financial accounting for wildfire costs. And so this is something that CSAC sent up the alarm. I tried calling RCRC and talked to one of my representatives, John Kennedy, out of RCRC. I just didn't get a hold of him to see what his thoughts were on this. But I've done a lot of meetings with PG&E through RCRC, and so this has just been a weird situation happening. So that's how this part. Dan, you?
Yeah, part of the issue is too, there's no actual, there's no verbiage to the actual,
Right.
what they're taking, and we don't know what they're gonna say. We have some assumptions what they're gonna say. I was contacted by a reporter and asked, because my name's on the list of opposing, and they were supporting PG&E's position, I guess, however you wanna figure it. But my whole point is that I don't know that the counties may or may not be made whole. We don't know what the verbiage is. I know last time they told us that PG&E, the board's gonna be held accountable, that the shareholders are gonna pay. Well, guess what happened? We all paid. We're still paying. What they intended, what happened, did not seem to align. I mean, our bills just went up. They basically demanded a bunch of hardening. I gripe about CPUC all the time. They've been around 120-some years, and yet they keep raising their rates. If they're gonna hold them to account on one and they'd hold them on the other, it can't be both. I mean, if they're gonna make them do all this stuff, they keep charging the consumer, and that's been my gripe the whole time. And so, on my own, I am supporting, the PG&E side of things on, as far as a group, I don't know if the verbiage came out and was clear what we were supporting or not supporting, I'd be a little more in favor of it, but that's just kind of I hate to be kind of squishy about it, but I feel like I'm not. I think I'm taking the right position.
If we come out and impose something and we don't even know what it says, we've lost our seat at the table. Now we don't even get to be a part of the discussion because we've opposed something and this has been going on for years of trying to fix something that's broken and needs to be reformed. I'm a little concerned about taking a position on something. I don't even know what I'm taking a position.
And to clarify too, what the argument largely revolves around is making counties and cities whole when there is, as they call, utility cause fire damage. So when utility causes or contributes to a fire, then they're supposed to make the counties and cities whole. That's the objective. This is kind of seeking to mitigate that. Again, you know, I'm more concerned about the consumer than either entity. I mean, yeah, actually, I have to look out for the county, obviously, but we don't know what the details are going to be. We don't have any real outline, I don't think. I checked yesterday with Dana Jorgensen from Heather Hadwick's office, and he theorizes they're probably going to drop this on the state probably on Thursday, they think. They think Newsom's holding out, and, you know, that just makes me suspect immediately of what he's going to drop in this. And so that's why they're trying to oppose it, because they think it's going to be probably damaging to counties, but we don't know. I mean, I suppose we could, you know, have some talking points about what we support and we don't. So if something comes out, I mean, again, that'd be so muddy, I don't know if it would do any good. I mean, I know other counties have definitely favored with CSAC and trying to reduce any liability, you know, mitigation for PG&E as far as not holding them account, like basically making them pay. I guess that'd be the summary of it. I think RCRC, I'm pretty sure, supports that same position as well, from what I can see, at least what I read yesterday.
If the board is not comfortable with taking a position without actual legislation to oppose,
Yeah.
you could always just say, well, we're going to be prepared to have a quick emergency meeting or a special meeting, not an emergency.
Yeah.
A special meeting when the time's appropriate, 24 hours notice, we can get that set up.
That, I would feel more comfortable with that only because I'm not sure what we would be supporting or not supporting. And I think that's the point of the whole thing, is to delay as long as possible, drop it at midnight and see how we scramble. I think that's probably the point.
There was quite a list of opposition, though, of cities that
There was, yeah, and I
surprised me for that,
Well-
your argument. What are you opposing?
well, when the CSAC president calls you personally, I can tell you he's interested in getting your 2 cents, so,
Where were they, though, for the last 3 years while this discussion has been going on? They showed up
yeah.
in the very last week. Like, this discussion's been going on for a long time with a lot of partners. And if we just always think we can make PG&E the big bad guy that pays it, from where do they get the money?
It would be us.
It's going to us anyway, so I don't think that's a fix.
Al, I'll do a little rebuttal to that one, is that, like I said, I've gone to, well, Supervisor Neto and I have both gone to a lot of RCRC meetings dealing with PG&E, and they skirt around this during those meetings. So that, you know, because I've been pushing for log removal so hard, and you know, they were so proud that they were on average 82% of log removals from people's properties. But you know, as I've gone down the list, PG&E says it's a CPUC, and CPUC's, well, it's PG&E's vegetation management. You know, so they point their fingers at each other. You know, I can't get any true definition out of that. So it's scary, is that I hate to see where this is going down the road, you know, because they say that they'll make, you know, progress on it, but it's been a real knockdown, drag-out fight to get this. As we had Mario's here in the county, that was probably the worst, you know, vegetation management outfit that we've ever had. And that was, you know, they were leaving stuff behind that was just incredible amount of material, you know, as a fire hazard in the upcountry. You know, so this is, you know, this is where part of my disdain for both the CPUC and, you know, PG&E comes from.
I would say something you could look at too is, you don't know what the legislation is, but you know it's coming. You could say, maybe you could send a letter saying, hey, we have concerns, yada, yada, yada. One thing I will say, just putting facts on the table, part of the problem we have is I don't care if it's PG&E, I don't care if it's Chairman Crew pulls over, he has a flat tire and starts a fire in the grass. The fire conditions we have as far as fuel are just horrendous out there. People used to have more animals that ate grass, goats ate the bushes. So you used to have a lot of animals out there eating a lot of that fuel, and people burned more firewood. When I was a kid, there'd be a fight over a tree that fell down. You'd see a couple cotton tops out there, and one guy'd say, well, I'm cutting on it. Well, I saw it first. And now you see wood laying around everywhere, brush everywhere. People used to clean stuff up. And I think the county made some attempts. I think almost maybe, I don't know if PR might work better, but you go to some of these houses, as at Amador Pines, Jeff's district the other day. Beautiful house, and they got little small trees that'll probably never grow, never do nothing, and manzanita all around their beautiful house because they want to have a screen. And it's a big problem because I guess the point I'm making is it doesn't matter who starts that fire. The conditions are such that they become a very big fire, very possibly. And I think that part of the equation people are trying to address, and I think maybe we need to address it more. Especially PR. Hey, when wintertime comes, cut stuff down, burn it, clean up your ground. I wouldn't be against, send a letter to maybe to CSAC they could send on or you saying, hey, we have some concerns over making public agencies, exempt from liability. Because one thing they do, if they still have some skin in the game, they're probably more liable to try to maintain their lines and facilities, keep a little more fire safe. If they become exempt, that goes away.
But if we take all their money, I mean, have been a great partner. They just did a big fire break next to Pine Grove. They're cutting down dead trees and trees all over the place. It's not just that. Like we had that search and rescue. It was PG&E who went in with their snowcat and saved the people up there. I mean, we need a whole healthy PG&E in this community. I don't think we realize how much they are doing for us. And yeah.
No, I'm not against them. No, I understand that.
I think Dan's got it right. We just need to be careful because we're looking at a shadow of what it could be. Either way. If we need a special meeting, I mean, if it comes out that's blatantly something that we're opposed, we could have a special meeting and take a stand then.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
All right. We are ready for public comment.
Hi, Chair, Supervisors. For the record, though I've had the pleasure of getting to meet with each of you, my name is Ellen Brittingham. I represent Pacific Gas and Electric Company as your local government affairs rep for Amador County. Really appreciate the conversation today because it's exactly what I wanted to address. I didn't come here today to sway you one way or another on what reform should look like. I came here today to address the ask that is on the agenda, which is to come out with a formal position before legislation is ready. I think the suggestion by your county administrator is totally reasonable that when and if legislation becomes available, meeting to discuss that proposal on its own merits is the way to go. But before I dive into maybe the rest of my comments, I do want to start by saying I believe everyone in this room shares the same goal, and that's protecting communities from wildfire and ensuring that they can recover and rebuild as quickly as possible. It's the challenge that we face is that our current wildfire recovery system is too often doing the opposite. California's current system is slow, it's uneven, and in many cases it's predatory. Billboard attorneys take up 40% of settlements. Hedge funds buy up victims' claims to turn a profit. Meanwhile, the victims who have lost their homes and their belongings are last in line. The result is a system that costs more, delivers less, and too often falls short for the very people it was supposed to help. As we speak, communities in our neighboring Calaveras County are going to have to deal with the impacts of the catastrophic Gann fire. It's a reminder that wildfire devastation isn't limited to any single cause, and Mr. Oneto brought that up today. In fact, 90% of California's wildfires are not caused by investor-owned utilities, yet the survivors will face the same challenges: rising insurance costs, uncertainty about recovery, and a lengthy process for obtaining the resources they need to rebuild. That's why we believe the conversation about wildfire recovery reform should focus on creating a system that works better for all wildfire victims, regardless of the cause. But again, regardless of which approach you agree with for reform, the status quo is not sustainable, and we should agree that reform is needed. In fact, today, the California Firefighters Professional Association came out stating just that. They agree that, at a minimum, reform should be visited. which is what brings me to my main concern that I've already expressed with the CSAC letter before you today. They ask you to oppose legislation before there is legislation. You know, we talk about the concepts and the frameworks and the ideas that are out there, but there's no actual proposal for you to evaluate yet, which I believe is a premature ask. Again, suggest you keep your seat at the table, as Supervisor Carnell stated, and evaluate any legislative proposal on its own merits when it's available. Wildfire recovery is surely a complex issue, and we owe it to survivors, taxpayers, and ratepayers alike to carefully consider meaningful reform. For those reasons, again, I just restate that I ask that we don't sign on to a letter today in opposition until that language is ready.
Any questions? Ellen?
I just have one more comment.
Not for
Like, you know, the Eaton fire? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
The Eaton fire, I've heard different numbers, it's like $27 billion to $40 billion. I think it was a SoCal Edison fire, it sounds like. I don't know if SoCal Edison has that much valuation, period. And I guess the other question is, you know, hey, people, we do want power. And these companies have a mission of providing the power, and if a fire starts, they're liable. And I'm a tree guy, kind of like Logan. You drive around and look at them, and I thought, man, I'd hate to be one of these power providers trying to not have a fire caused by my lines that go through thousands and thousands of miles of forest. So it's a hard question.
The Butte fire was caused by a green tree, so it wasn't, I mean, I guess negligence, but somebody in the Butte fire I know had a modular that burned down, and they ended up, by the end of getting done with PG&E, they had a ranch in Nevada and another, they had 2 ranches is what they were able to purchase. I mean, there comes a point where we have to put some sort of, we can't afford to do this forever.
Right.
We're all subsidizing those ranches.
Yeah.
Any other public comment? Zoomers?
Not at this time.
Oh, should we, no action on this?
And I'll talk to the chairman as soon as legislation is filed and see if we want to go with a special meeting.
Okay. So we can move on to 4B, GSA resolution regarding approval of the sublease for the jail expansion facility. Do we have a choice?
Not really. Good morning again, Board. So this relates to the county's $28 million jail expansion project. And as you know, and I want to announce to the public that we have a ribbon cutting today at 1:30 for the jail expansion. The state is paying the county approximately $17.2 million under Senate Bill 863, and the funding is provided by what is called lease revenue bonds. They're issued by the State Public Works Board, and the sublease before you today is essentially a financing mechanism to pay the BSCC what it has paid the county. And so it's somewhat of a complex arrangement. County owns the property. County leased the property to BSCC with a ground lease. BSCC leased to the State Public Works with a site lease. State Public Works leased back to BSCC with a facility lease. And then BSCC subleases back to the county through this finance or facility sublease. And the facility sublease will not alter the county's ownership interest in the property or the facility, but will provide the necessary legal and financial framework for the state to issue the bonds. So what we're asking is that the board approve the resolution that approves the sublease and to authorize the board chair to execute the sublease. And we don't have a whole lot of choice.
That was my original question.
Yeah.
Any public comment on this issue? All right, coming back to the board, do we want Glenn to restate that again? It sounds like who's on first, me. It is our building.
It is our bill.
Okay, that's key.
Does it really change anything? I mean, I was looking at reading through it, and basically the maintenance is on us, which I assume that's the thing anyway, but I mean, just some of the points there, but.
Yeah, we still own the building. The sublease ensures that we are complying with the managing this facility the way the BSCC wants us to manage it.
Right. We're just basically them asking them to put a thumb on us. That's kind of, more or less, that's what I get probably the high level summary of it, but
Yeah,
that's what it seems like. Okay.
that's why so $28 million project, they paid 17.2.
Right, they want to make sure they're getting the money's worth there.
There's no such thing as free money.
Yeah, if we had financed it ourselves, there would be no need to do any of this.
Right. Yeah, basically, we just got to do our job. If we don't, we're in trouble. That's kind of
Yeah.
filling your narrative for you there.
And the sheriff's office is
Yeah.
100% competent and able to do this, so.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I was looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the action item.
I guess I'll second it.
All right. We had a motion by Supervisor Epperson and a second by Supervisor Cornell to approve the sublease for the jail expansion facility as explained. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 4C is approval of the August 11th, 2026 board minutes. Any questions, comments, corrections?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Oneto and a second by Supervisor Brown to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved, 5-0. The board has a 10:15 meeting at that time.
As the Board of Governors for IHS.
Yeah, that is a time specific.
Yeah, 10:15 for Board of Governors for IHSS, and
Right.
then 10:30.
10:30 but until then,
Board
we'll
of Supervisors.
be in recess. Maybe we All right, we are going to call the order of the Amador County In-Home Supportive Services for 10:15. We have an agenda. We're looking for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I've had a motion by Supervisor Oneto, a second by Supervisor Epperson to approve the agenda. Public matters not on the agenda, discussion items only, no action be taken. Any person may address the board on any subject within our jurisdiction. However, any matter requires action may be referred to staff for a report and recommendation for action at a future meeting. Please note there's a 3-minute limit per topic. State your name when you come to the podium.
Just a clarification, did you call for the vote? For the agenda?
Maybe I didn't. Sorry about that. Thank you. We had a motion by Supervisor Oneto, a second by Supervisor Epperson. There was no public comment. Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The agenda passes 5-0. Now, public matters not on the agenda. Any Zoomers? All right. Any supervisors? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move along to the agenda. Item 1 is the minutes from the June 9th, 2026 meeting.
Motion approved.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Oneto, second by Supervisor Carnell. Is there any public comment on the minutes from June 9th, 2026? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 2 is the consent agenda, request to approve the IHS Public Authority non-health benefits PA rate.
Move to approve. Oh, excuse me, public.
Right?
I mean, you haven't gone to the public yet for
Comment?
comment.
Okay. Any public comment on the request to approve the Amador County IHSS Public Authority non-health benefits PA rate? Any Zoomers? All right, we brought it back. We had a motion by Supervisor Brown,
Second by
Supervisor Carnell. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. With that, the IHSS meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
We're not governors anymore.
No, we're out of work. And we're a board of governors, that's right. It was Governor Carnell. Excuse me. We'll have a public hearing starting at 10:30. That's time certain too, is it, Chuck, or do we? Okay, that's what I thought. your job next year. Signing all this stuff. Yeah, we'll lose it, so we'll just hold that email that I wrote farther down the road. No. Are you gonna have this meeting? Here? Yeah, probably. I can attend. As a referee. They won't like that. Okay, they'll get it. That doesn't mean they have to like it. Yeah, that's why that happened to me. If they, 40 of them come tell them the road's bad, you gotta do something. What? It's like being against a data center. There is no data center. Interesting, but,
that? Oh, your daughter?
No, the dog.
Oh, I understand that, but who's walking your dog?
Melissa and recorder's office fights.
All right, we will come back into session and we'll have a 10:30 public hearing. 5A is appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of an amendment to a use permit 19:6-3 to allow for expanded commercial recreation, boarding, and guest facilities in the exclusive agricultural zoning district. The request seeks an addition of 9 overnight recreational vehicle spaces and 1 long-term farm labor worker RV spot pursuant to County Code 19-24-036-16. The above proposed uses are allowed in the ag district when carried on as a clearly secondary use in conjunction with a primary agricultural use, subject to a use permit. The APN number is 007-020-006. Without mouthful, I'll open the public hearing. Good morning.
Good morning, Krista Roussel with the Planning Department. So this is an application for an amendment to that original use permit for the boarding guest facilities. The applicant is requesting 10 RV spots, 9 of which would be short-term rentals, and 1 would be a farm worker housing unit, which would require to be renewed on 5-year basis. They are within the AG district, so they are under the Williamson Act, contract number 97, and that was an earlier contract, so it doesn't fall under some of the new ordinance revisions that apply to that zoning district necessarily. This application was reviewed by and approved by the Planning Commission on July 14th, 2026, and this their decision has been appealed to the board today. The findings are included in the staff report, and that included the filing of a notice of exemption for the project as well. And I guess there was some applications from the applicant as well, proposing additional conditions of approval that were submitted with the appeal packet. So,
All right, any questions from the board for?
I do know as well that the appellant and the project applicants are present too.
Okay. All right, well, we're ready to hear both sides of the argument. Mr. Sweat? Lead off for us, huh?
Sign in.
Yes, please do. State your name for the record. We are recording this meeting.
Thomas Sweat, here on behalf of Mr. Bentatu, the appellant. Thank you for your time this morning, supervisors. This matter, I mean, as sure as you're all aware, has kind of turned into a bit of a popularity contest to a certain degree. There's a lot of recriminations flying back and forth, a lot of salty letters. But what the decision that's before you today doesn't turn on any of that. It doesn't turn on who's a good person, who's a bad person. I just encourage you to focus on the merits of the application that we're considering. The Kirkland Ranch is, as it's proposed to amend its use permit, is really posturing itself to sort of be the roaring camp of Shenandoah Valley. They've got a lot of recreational opportunities out there. They've got access to the river, horseback riding. They want to add 10 RV spaces in addition to the house and some of the other things they're doing, including being a wedding venue. The question again before the board is not whether or not this so much is a good or bad idea. If you don't live next to it, it sounds great. If you do, maybe you have more concerns. But apart from the merits of the project itself, what it really comes down to here is the proposed use legal. And here, unfortunately, it's not. Kirkland Ranch has an active Williamson Act contract, as you know. The Williamson Act comes with very favorable tax treatment. In exchange for that favorable tax treatment, there are significant use restrictions. And those use restrictions are carried over into the county's exclusive ag zone, which you have to be part of if you're going to be in the Williamson Act. And here, the proposed application runs afoul of the county's own code. So what the Planning Commission approved is contrary to the county's law. Commercial recreation is allowed in the exclusive ag zone subject to a use permit, but only in very limited circumstances. And as the county's own language says, that use has to be, quote, clearly secondary to the agricultural uses of the property. And that's not the case here. If, as approved, the Kirkland Ranch would be a recreation destination that had a secondary use of a small vineyard in the southeast corner of the parcel, instead of a agricultural operation that had a clearly secondary recreational use. It's inverted. It's 180 degrees or topsy-turvy with respect to the county's own zoning code. And if the proposed use is not allowed by your own zoning code, it's what the Planning Commission did was illegal. There's also a clear CEQA violation with the Planning Commission's approval of the mitigated, not use of, but the approval of a categorical exemption. A categorical exemption might have been appropriate with a small tweak to the existing use permit, but the changes being made to the use permit is adding new uses and new impacts. If you look at the original application for the use permit on the Kirkland Ranch, it explicitly says that no RV parking will be allowed. What the Planning Commission did was add 10 additional RV parking spaces from 0 to 10. There's a discussion in the staff report that the categorical exemption is appropriate because there'll be no additional ground disturbance. That's just not true. You can go look on Google Earth and see the additional ground disturbance that's happening as a result of this. The original use permit said there would be 0. Now there is ground disturbance. There's additional traffic. It is a new project. As a new project, it needs to be analyzed under CEQA. Whether that is a negative declaration or an EIR, that's for experts to debate later. But a categorical exemption is certainly not proper. And then finally, at the 11th hour, a ag worker housing unit was added, which would allow somebody to stay in one of these RVs 24/7, 365, with no evidence that there's anybody actually working an agricultural role on the property that's going to be living in one of these RVs. I think what basically is they need a caretaker for the operation, and this will give them an ability to keep that person there who caretakes a recreational operation, not an ag worker who's tending to an agricultural operation. So not only was it added at the 11th hour, I don't think there's any evidence in the record that would support that additional sort of secondary use permit for permanent occupancy. So with those points made, I'd again refer you to the letter we submitted that's in your agenda packet for the full length of all of our arguments. But rather than take up more of your time, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer, and I'll be here for the duration.
Questions?
No, I just have a statement. I met with Mr. Tom Sweat, talk about the project. I also met with the Kirklands and Jufra, or Kirkland and Jufra, and their consultant to talk about the project.
Yeah, I did as well. I met with Tom, I met with Jim and his environmental guy and Mr. Brisky.
I met with Tom Sweat myself.
I've met with Tom Sweat.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
If you have any other questions, we'll call you up. We'll call you back. All right. Next. Okay. Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and fellow supervisors. I'm Dina Kirkland. When my parents bought their ranch back in 1962, they were already familiar with the Shenandoah Valley, for they had lived on my dad's uncle, Walt Steiner's property back in 1955. My parents knew right away that their property was very special, and they started making plans. For many years, the Kirkland Ranch was a gathering place for family, friends, and neighbors. Riding horses, fishing, hiking to the river, target shooting, musical jam sessions, and playing cards were just a few things we all enjoyed sharing. My parents joined the Antique Truck Historical Society back in the mid-1980s, and they offered their ranch as a West Coast location for their annual show. And that went on there at the ranch for 28 years. My parents also did beautiful outdoor Christmas light displays. They became so popular over the years that before they knew it, people were coming from all over the county just to enjoy the lights and the Christmas cheer. It's important to me to give you this information since our hosting of guests ties into my parents' commitment to share the ranch. In the past 6.5 years, we've hosted a few weddings, some very special fundraisers, and even a few celebrations of life. When people visit the ranch, they feel a connection. It has a special energy. Even though my dad wasn't really a religious man, he always referred to Shenandoah Valley and the Kirkland Ranch as God's country. Now I have the opportunity to share the property with future special guests that will stay in our boutique-style RV facility. We want to offer guided tours of some of the Arroyo Ditch, an old mining area remnant that's down on the middle fork of the Cosumnes River, and other special features of the property. I personally want to offer guests a gathering that I'll call Story Hour. If interested, guests could join me at various locations on the property and talk about family and history in the valley. I will have guest speakers at times when they are available to join me. I'm also excited to tell you that we want to give guests the opportunity to participate in what we're going to call Adopt a Vine program. The guests could choose to take on one or more grapevines as their personal project at no cost to them. We would teach them how to care for the vines, everything from pruning through the harvest. And what a great way to bring families together to learn and appreciate the farming process. So with the hope of your approval today, I would like to thank everyone who has participated in helping us with this new endeavor. I feel very thankful to be surrounded by such an amazing community. Thank you for your time.
All right. Anyone else?
Good morning, Supervisors. Craig Baracco with the Foothill Conservancy. You can find our earlier written contributions in this case. We sent in 2 letters while it was being reviewed by the Planning Commission. I would just refer to that for a more detailed version of my remarks that are going to be made right here. I think a few things to keep in mind when you're considering this. One, this is a fairly precedent-setting and very much pushing the line as far as what's allowed, particularly under Williamson Act contract and in the Ag Exclusive Zone. There's a range of, we have a range of uses that we know for sure are allowed under the Williamson Act. There are, of course, a whole host of things that we know for certain are not. This does fall into, I say, an arguable or debatable area. For all the talk of boutique camping or luxury camping or the like, this is in fact an RV park, and it is going to set a precedent for RV parks in places like the Shenandoah Valley and other properties that are zoned for ag exclusive that are in Williamson Act. It would open up a whole range of properties potentially for this type of use. And there's no, once the example is made, once the first case is approved, there's nothing to say that the next project can't be 20 pads or 30 pads or so on. The fundamental problem with the application is that there was not an adequate environmental review done. The categorical exemption is intended for very minor alterations in the existing use permit. The existing use permit in this case is a stick-built farmhouse that allows, I believe, up to 8 guests. This is 10 additional RV pads. Each RV is 2 to 4 guests. So we're moving from a potential 8 guests to 48 guests as an overnight stay. We're putting up to 10 heavy vehicles on what are substandard county roads. There's just no way that we could consider this a minor increase in the use. This should have been reviewed with the full initial study checklist, either a mitigated or just a plain neg deck, if that's the outcome of that review. But for something this precedent setting and this potentially impactful, the county needed to have done the full checklist environmental review for something like this. It should not have been done as a category exemption. I think that's the original sin of this. That environmental review would have much better informed this entire debate in terms of impacts to neighbors. Another thing to keep in mind is that there are existing uses on the site, most prominently the events that were previously talked about. And I would just cast your mind to the weddings you've attended in the past and the weddings where everyone had to go home at 10 p.m. and drive a half hour or an hour to go home. And the weddings that you went to at a hotel or a place where you were staying the night at the location, and how much more of a party that was, right? So what not the RV pads themselves have plenty of potential environmental impacts that need to be reviewed, but it also overall changes the environmental impacts, the impacts to neighbors, to roads, sound, noise, lights of the other uses that are already in place, right? You're talking about much more intense events because you can have up to, say, 50 people staying the night at the end of your wedding, right? That's a party that can go much later into the night. It can be much louder, much more persistent. That's just one example of the potential impacts of this proposal and the fact that it wasn't reviewed in advance, that you can't review a mitigated neg deck that sort of details these issues, that sort of engages with the need to decide, is this an appropriate under Williamson Act? Does this cross the line into a full-blown commercial use? I would make the case that it does, but really the staff report and the accompanying documents and findings don't really engage with that. And I think, there's been loose talk of various lawsuits and whatnot. I would say, just as someone who, as representing an organization that's not going to be suing on this one way or the other, but I would say that this approval with this level of review does make it very vulnerable to a legal challenge under CEQA, that there's just not been adequate environmental review for this project. And we would urge the Board of Supervisors to uphold the appeal, deny the project, and at the very least require a full initial study environmental review of the project. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Brisky. I better sign in.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for your time. I just can't really hardly believe the path that this whole little journey has taken with us, you know. When we took on the Kirkland Ranch and I became a partner with Jim and Dina, you know, we wanted to keep the history of the ranch intact. And major cleanup, that was the first phase of it, you know, get it back looking good. And, you know, you don't realize all the cost of vineyards and the buildings and all that till you get into it. And it's a lot, you know. And we were selling the grapes. That was a bit of income. But now with everything changing a bit in the valley, and I'm sure you guys have driven through the valley, it's pretty darn depressing, you know, when you see all these vines coming out, you know. And I mean, I'm old enough now. I remember when those were grass-filled fields, and then the vineyards went in, and it changed the whole feel of the valley, you know. It's just the groomed vines, the greenness, good quality people were coming into the valley. Not that they weren't already there, it's just that they brought money, you know, they brought people, they brought tourism. And it gave us a lot of work too, and a lot of other contractors, I'm sure. You know, it's, you try to think of other ways to help pay the bills. And I know fire insurance has went up for everybody. You know, we're dealing with it. If you own your home, you can just take a chance and not insure it. But, you know, we did get the use permit. We trusted the system. We came to the county. We said, this is what we want to do. We were the first one with an ag tourism use permit. So we didn't have to look over our shoulder. You know, we didn't want to think, oh, we're just going to get away with this and we're just going to do whatever we want. We went through the proper channels. It took us almost a year to get the first use permit and probably $7,000 or $8,000. We went through every committee and we got the signed document. Go ahead. Congratulations, start. Well, time goes by and you have to make adjustments, you know. So at a couple of the weddings, we were asked about an RV stay maybe, so we don't have to drive. So the wheels start turning and you think, okay, maybe in a limited situation, this could work. And at that time, Ruth Crane was still alive. And, you know, she was always curious of what we were doing there. And, hey, what are you guys doing today? You know, I took care of their water system. I helped out Karen. And, you know, if we had done it years ago, it probably wouldn't be an issue. But what I'm getting at is that, you know, we're trying to find a way to make ends meet. And, you know, kind of similar when you have the tire store. Tires on this side, mufflers, brakes, you know, you can't be a one-trick pony anymore. You have to multitask. And so we went through the channels. We went through the county. We filled out all the paperwork. And what we thought originally was when it came down to the encroachment, they verified it was big enough. The septic system for the main house, we had the permit. When Howard put it in, it was signed off. They were good with that. But now the new neighbor has hired an attorney and they start poking fingers at every little thing and trying to, oh, you didn't complete this, you didn't complete that. So we thought, okay, let's enlarge the encroachment a bit. We get a permit for that. Let's check the septic system out. Well, there was some issues, you know. The tank was falling in. Howard had put a steel plate on it. So, hey, we got to make this right. Put a brand new septic tank, 1,500 gallons, new leach field. Everything was above board. We increased the power supply from 30 amps to 400 amps for the wedding venue and for, you know, just lights for safety when needed and proper power. We don't want to hear generators running out there, you know. So we did all this with permits and stuff. And I did do some maintenance in the area where we do have the site chosen. You have to do some maintenance, some grooming. When you remove grass and you smooth it out again and you address the slope and some drainage, it looks like a lot, but it wasn't that much, you know. So I also put a French drain in and you backfill with gravel. So I did have a pile of dirt there, but some of that was used to shore up the roads that were washing out around the ranch. There's been comments about my equipment being parked there. Well, I mean, we're an ag community. I mean, I've built a lot of the infrastructure on a lot of the wineries, private homes up there. Believe me, when someone's out of water, you kind of become a big deal, and so these owners of wineries, I've been called out on every holiday, weekend, Sunday, whatever, and you go there because you have to keep in touch with your customer base, and they remember that. It's like, hey, we're gonna call Greg, we're not gonna go with this other guy, he might be a bit cheaper, or whatever the case could be, so, I don't know, another thing is about fire danger, we've got two great wells, 100-gallon a minute and a 50-gallon a minute well. They both pump up to a 5,000-gallon tank, which is gravity fed. So if the power goes out, we got water flow for quite some time at about 65 pounds of pressure, because I set it at elevation with a 3-inch main. We have 1.5-inch fire hookups, numerous places. And we're ready to roll. I keep a water truck there. The dozers help us clear up the trees that fall and maintain the roads. I park a drill rig there in between jobs sometimes, but to me, that's an ag thing, it's supporting. Without water, these wineries and tasting rooms, they're not gonna be functioning, So, I don't know, we're kind of taking a gamble on this too, it's basically spring to fall. The people aren't gonna be out there in the winter time. And we're targeting kind of the boutique luxury folks. We want them to come and spend some money in the county, go taste some wine, and go back multiple times. Go to 10 or 15 wineries, and hopefully they will get an experience. There's so much to look at around the ranch. Everybody goes into a tasting room and they think, oh, this is just wonderful, it's beautiful, but go out in the field and spray and prune and disc and pick and then process and then hope that you can sell the wine. But hopefully they buy wine, because the grape growers can't sell wine if the wineries can't sell grapes if the wineries aren't selling their wine, So I don't know, there's a misconception that if this gets approved, that they're gonna be wall-to-wall RVs up and down the valley. Every property is not conducive to this. We have good deep soil for the septic, we have good water, we have adequate power. It's very private, it's 120 acres, and we're using maybe less than 1% of the land, One person can maybe see it if you get in the right angle, but we're trying to be respectful. I think about it too. Would I want this next to me? Well, if it was done correctly and responsibly, and believe me, Jim, if you've been around his shop, you're not gonna come through that gate unless you don't have the proper type of equipment and the right kind of people. And we don't want to be judgmental, but come on, we're taking a risk here. We know we're gonna be monitored and watched. We've had our use permit for 7, 8 years now, not one complaint. It's just, weird things seem to happen. At the last meeting, it was about a shooting range, This is not part of the amendment. Early on, years ago, we thought of all these fun things we might be able to do, but because of insurance costs and just, it didn't make sense. So that is totally off the board. But, and then fire, we're addressing that. And it's kind of ironic that like 2 weeks ago, neighbors over there, there's like grass, dry grass, 3 feet tall. They're out there mowing the pasture, It's like, my God, you hit a rock, you're in trouble. So, I don't know, just so many things, you just think about, what am I gonna forget? I'm forgetting a lot of things, but, yeah. Yeah, and I remember when Mr. Deaver was gonna do the bed and breakfast over on Steiner Road. There was a lot of people against that, but I think it was good. It didn't bring in a bunch of riffraff, it brought good people. We're not trying to do Burning Man events out there. It's not gonna be Joe Dirt Trailer Park. We want them to have a good time, get to know the valley. Dina knows a lot of the history of the valley. And I don't know, Brian made a comment one time about how there was a family from Switzerland that came out, and they spent some time on their ranch helping process some cattle. And then they went to Disneyland, and when they came back, they said, gee, we enjoyed hanging out here at the ranch with you guys more than Disneyland, So there's something to be said, about learning about this valley. But yeah, it's, and the disturbance, of the ground, I was out there the day that I think Lynette was driving around with the representative from the State Water Board, And I could hear a lot of stuff that's going on and all the grading I'm doing, and the water's gonna run down to the river. And there's 3 catch dams that Howard did, a large reservoir. And if you do a major grading project, there's always a sediment trap, some way to catch that. There's no way any murky water is gonna go off our property. And if it does, it goes into Ben Dimson's property, who's got a fully lined reservoir that's aerated, and it's for his personal use too. So I don't really see where we're doing something that's, you know, so terrible to the environment out there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know Mr. Sweat. I know he's probably pretty good. I know his parents. I work for them. Dad is a good, down-to-earth guy. The mother, very sharp, you know, and I think he's got the balance of both there. And, you know, yeah, and after the last meeting, Jim put together some binders telling some of the neighbors that there's no gun range, right? And so we have a cluster of mailboxes, and I'm driving down Bell Road, and here's all these papers along the road. So I stop and I pick these up, and I'm looking. These are the envelopes Jim had sent out. So these things are torn open, papers just thrown out. And I thought, who the heck would do that, you know? And so, you know, wheels start turning. So I call forensics labs, and they say, oh yeah, you seal them this way, and there's a lot of resins and oils from fingerprints that will stay on paper. I mean, I don't want to go down this path, you know? I don't care what the neighbor does as long as it's safe and legal, and we are trying to do the same. So, I don't know, with all that said, I don't want to go on and on, but boy, you just kind of get wound up sometimes. But I would appreciate your support on this. We're not going to let you down. We're going to do it right. And if we're doing something wrong, we want you to tell us, and we're going to address it, you know. That's just kind of the bottom line, just trying to survive and keep the ranch intact. And Dina wants to honor her parents' legacy, and, you know, down the road, you know, we might, when we get too old to manage it, maybe the Motherlode Land Trust could take it over. Maybe we could donate it to the county, and it could still function for years to come. So, all right, I got the signal. Yeah. Thank you for your time. Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Next.
Good morning. I'm used to saying good evening because we're always going to the Planning Commission, but good morning, fellow supervisors and Mr. Chairman. So while I'm signing here, Kirkland Ranch has been a commercial operation for 64 years. It's been ranching, farming, trucking, and events. Now, it's funny that they always leave out a lot of things to try to lead people down the wrong road as far as the Williamson's Act goes. The Williamson's Act has provisions in it for agritourism. It also has provisions, Article 13, which is for recreational use. And they always leave that out. And, you know, there's also our by rights and the general plan. They don't talk about that either. Now, our permit that we have, our use permit, that is very detailed. It's very, you know, explicit in what we can and can't do. We've never done anything we can't do. You know, there's been a lot of letters that they've written accusing us of different things. And, for example, you can only have 8 guests on the property, and they have to recreate on the northern end of the property. Our use permit doesn't say that. The county's not going to say, oh, you can have a dinner party, but everybody's got to stay in the kitchen. That's basically what they're saying. That's not true. And that's the stuff that really irritates us. We can have up to 450 guests. We can have events all year long. That's part of our use permit. So when they start saying that you can't do that, I don't like the deception. That's the thing that's really starting to get to us. I don't like being threatened with lawsuits. Their first letter, it was in writing, and then it was verbal at the commission meeting. It's just not right. Now, as far as our primary and secondary use permit, or not use permit, but primary and secondary uses, you know, they love to throw stuff out there and see if it sticks at the wall. Okay, where's the proof? Do they look at our books? Do they look at our tax returns? No, they don't. He just conveniently leaves out that we have a 5,000 square foot winery on the property with, you know, wine production, cold storage, and bottling. That's an ag use. Our vineyard is an ag use. We have other ag uses. We give the assessor every year sends a form for the Williamson's Act. We fill that out, and they're perfectly happy with what our numbers are. You know, our primary is double what our secondary is. And they just insinuate that, you know, we're a bunch of bums out there that are taking advantage of the system, and we're not. You know, for the first time in 44 years, our grapes didn't sell. That was a gut punch. It's $3,000 an acre to farm. That ranch is a historical piece of this county, and that vineyard is part of that ranch, and we are not going to let that vineyard die. So we're going to farm it no matter what. Our insurance went from $4,500 to $18,000 in the span of 7 years. So these RV spaces would help. You know, we have a short-term rental that's also a museum. But, you know, because the wineries are slow, that's slow. And then the weddings are slow because the wineries are slow. And because of COVID, that really kind of killed the whole wedding thing. So we've only done a couple. But when they start talking about, you know, all the devastation of some RVs and all this, in your blue binders that you guys got a couple weeks ago, there was an article from the Farm Bureau. And I don't know if you had a chance to read it or not, but that article was support for farm stays and why they're important to California. And this is what this is, it's a farm stay. And it also talked about Assembly Bill 518. That is supporting the farm stays by the state. And every county has to opt into it. So maybe you guys don't know about it yet because it's brand new, but if you haven't looked at it, it's something that the county has to opt into as far as I understood it. But there is precedent for this. It's, you know, this is the thing about the Williamson's Act too. Nobody even ever talks about why it was brought in. It was issued in '63. It was a result of the baby boom after World War II and us losing our agriculture land to residential. And so they put this bill in, and it was supposed to keep, you know, ag land from turning into residential. So that's exactly what's going on in the Shenandoah Valley right now. You've got hundreds of acres of grapes that are being torn out, and our parcels are going to be split. They're probably not going to be farmed again. You got 25% of your wineries that are up for sale. The biggest landowner out there has filed for bankruptcy. You've got 60% of the grapes stayed on the vine last year. That's alarming. And ours was one of them. So we're just trying to, you know, come up with a method to continue farming. This whole space takes up 1/3 of an acre. 1/3, that's it. Now, the two of you that were there that stood on it, you know that's an accurate statement. The space that 1/3 acre is already been approved for our wedding facility. That's where the tent goes. That's where we can park people. You know, that's already been approved. And we're not carving up ag land. We're not taking away ag land. We're using a space that was already approved for a secondary use. And nobody's better stewards of our land than we are. They've never been on our land, but they sure act like they have. You know, in a Google Earth picture, if you scrape the grass off, it looks like you moved a lot of dirt, but you know, moving grass isn't the same as moving earth. And we can move 50 yards of dirt without any permit. So everything we've done has been permitted as far as we know. And here's the other thing. So they threatened to sue, so we knew what was going on. Right away, we went and we met with Chuck and Krista. And we brought our engineer, Robin Peters, and our environmental consultant, Dave Guthridge. And we said, what do we need to do? Everybody knew what the stakes were. We did exactly what we were told. We met with them every month for 4 months because we got held up with weather. There was reasons that we couldn't finish the encroachment right away. So there was no underhandedness whatsoever. You know, and I'm offended in a way because basically what he's up here saying is that all the boards, or not all the boards, but all the departments that worked on this, he's basically saying they're incompetent and they didn't do it right. You had, I don't know how many departments worked on this. I could see one person making a mistake, but how could they all make a mistake? It's just not right. We did what we were told. They were happy with what we did. We called other departments even though we'd already been through the TAC committee. And we called them again and said, hey, this is what's going on. Tell us if you think there's something that we should do that maybe was overlooked before. Everybody said, no, everything's good. So now as far as the Adopt a Vine program, this goes right along with how we're going to blend farm stays into agriculture. We're one of the only places in the whole country, and the only that's doing it exactly the way we're going to do it. So we're going to let people farm their own grapes. We're going to teach them how. We're not going to let them spray or disc. But that's going to be, we talked to these people down there that wrote that bill, actually, on the phone, and she thought it was brilliant. And she said that's going to be a game changer for the grape industry, because that's going to bring a lot of people in that can enjoy farming. And just one quick second, you know, because I know I'm getting long here, but our boutique facility targets the luxury market. They don't stay in RV parks because RV parks are like little cities. It doesn't matter how nice they are. They're looking for a different experience. They want a connection to the land. And so all the things that we provide out there that they can do, it's just one person that can do 20 things. It's not 50 people that are doing one thing. And somebody said, oh, well, they can have 50 people staying in their RV space. Well, that's not true either, because, well, first of all, we can have RV stays for weddings. We can have 16 times a year we can have somebody stay the night. But we can only have 24 people stay at the RV facility. So we're asking for 10 spots with one farm worker, which they were lied about that. We have a farm worker. But so if you have families of 4, you're not going to have 10 units. It's basically, it's not the amount of units, it's really about the amount of people that can stay there. That's already in the documents that the county came up with. Now, we're 750 feet away from their house. You cannot see the house you cannot see from the front of their house, you cannot see our property at all. It's a heavy row of trees. There's a narrow gap in the trees where you can see it, but you're only going to see the RV that's on the end, because they're lined up this way. Okay, they're not lined up like a starting grid where they're all facing the guy's property, okay? It's sideways, and you're only going to see one. So, or part of one, actually. We're a quarter mile, our property line is a quarter mile from this facility. That's the county road. The closest county road's a quarter mile. There's no houses over there. To the west, it's Story Vineyard. They gave us a letter of approval. They can't see the facility. And to the north is the Cosumnes River Canyon. So there's only one person out of the whole Amador County of 41,000 people that can see part of one RV. And it's 2.5 football fields from his house. So it's not like it's over the fence, you know, and we're peeking over like Mr. Wilson and looking at RVs. So we've tried to be, you know, we gave you guys the list of all the stuff as far as the rules for the RV park. We've been very conscientious of the neighbor for that as far as, yeah, okay, I'm going to go ahead and that's probably all I need to say. Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, next. Good morning.
My name is Spencer Jones. I'm the president of the Amador County Wine Grape Growers Association. I'm also the winemaker and farmer for our family business, Iron Hub Winery in the Shenandoah Valley. I want to say, first, the Grape Growers Board unanimously opposes this project. My family business, we do not distribute. We're 100% reliant on tourists. We oppose this project, and I want to explain why. I don't know these folks. I have no personal attachment to them. They seem like nice. I understand they've been trying to do and develop a project. But this is setting a precedent for our Williamson Act in our agricultural district. If you look at Kirkland Ranch, they have 7 acres of Old Vine Zinfandel. Did that on Google Earth. 7 acres on a 120-acre property. That's not even 6%. You heard it from Dina. This was a retirement property. This was not a commercial agricultural business for decades. This was clearly a retirement property for folks to come out and enjoy with their friends and family. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. I'm glad they have great memories there. But what's important is what you guys are defining here today as primary agriculture. Let's do some numbers here on a vineyard. Say we're back in 2023, District 10, Zinfandel was selling $1,700 a ton when the market was strong. Old Vine Zinfandel, that my understanding, that vineyard was planted in the mid-70s. It's probably bringing in about 1.5 tons per acre. That's very conservative. So we're talking at $1,700, $18,000 of gross income. And then you have your cost to farm. This has been portrayed as some huge economic loss that they're not selling the fruit. And that is not the case at all. $3,000 an acre to farm, I can tell you, as a farmer, that's incredibly expensive. If they were incredibly tight on money and really wanted to conserve, they'd get out there themselves and farm it. As a farmer, you know, you cut and you adapt and you make changes. So we're talking about $18,000 of income. Let's look at Kirkland Ranch's other sources of income. They have a permanent residence where they're bringing in over $30,000 a year off of that house, just that one house alone. Then they have a second home, which is a temporary short rental. Then they have that shop, which is currently a winery. My understanding is that winery has intentions to build their own cellar. So does that mean when that winery leaves and that shop no longer is a winery, that now that whole vineyard is their only source of agriculture and now they're still primary agriculture? That's the question today. What is primary agriculture? This project is setting the precedent for that. Let's look in this area of what happens to these RV parks. We have 49er in Plymouth. We have Gold Beach up 49. What have those become? Those have become trailer parks. If you look at going 49er, go in the back lots, they're all permanent residents. All those nice pasture views are gone for folks that are coming in for the weekend. Kirkland Ranch is already advertising 1 month stays at this place. You can do it by the weekend, by the day, or 1 month. What is stopping them from doing it? Say folks that are there for a month, we want to stay for another month. We want to stay for another 6 months. Where's the accountability for that? There's none. This county is already failing at their very simple rule of RVs in this county. It's only for permitted under an environmental disaster or for during construction. And we know in this county there are hundreds of RVs already as permanent residents. There's no accountability to hold these folks in check. In our county right now with resources, if you look what's going on with wineries and other businesses, you know, no one's getting checked on what they're doing. And if they get the green light on this, there's nothing stopping from that becoming a 1 year stay for folks. And they say they don't want that. What they want is money. They don't care. They don't live on the property. They don't care about their neighbors. All of the neighbors in the general vicinity oppose this property, or excuse me, this project. Look at the infrastructure on Bell Road coming out onto E16 there. Folks are driving 60 miles an hour. We're talking $2 million rigs to sugarcoat that it's an RV park. Those are really short. Typically, they're 45 feet long. That's a great, that intersection there where cars are flying, that is not safe. There's going to be an accident. Think about if there's an emergency. We had the Sand Ridge fire burn through there about a decade ago. There are so many things of this project that are going to impact the local folks that live there, and I hope you all consider opposing this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sign in, please.
Oh, yeah, I'll do the best I can.
Yeah.
So why are the fights so bitter? Because the stakes are so small.
Your name, please.
Michael Baldinelli. I was going to get to that in my
Okay.
presentation. I mean, we're here to talk about 9 parking spaces. Let's put this in perspective. We're talking about a hazardous waste dump or something like that. My name is Mike Baldinelli, and I'm talking in support of the Kirkland project. And I just have a couple of points to make. But in way of introduction, my family's been involved in the Shenandoah Valley since 1973. My dad planted a vineyard there, later on had a winery, and now my wife and I farm it. I was also past president of the Amador Grape Growers Association, and I held that position for 10 years. So I briefly want to speak of 2 points, very briefly. One is the notion that this is going to proliferate through the county and be a problem, and then some observations about the permitting process. So at the Planning Commission meeting, a lot of people got up and spoke about, well, if you approve this, what's going to stop it from proliferating? What's going to stop everybody from putting in an RV park? Pardon me. Let's face it, that's an opinion. It's not a fact. It's just, you know, everyone is entitled to an opinion, but not their own facts. And there's been no survey that's proved this. There's no poll. There's nothing really to indicate this would happen. Now I'd like to share my opinion on it, which is also just an opinion, but it's based on this. Kind of gets back to why would somebody want to do this? And they're making an economic argument, which I think is a valid one. We are hurting. People aren't drinking alcohol. They're not drinking wine. The wineries aren't buying grapes, which means the grape growers aren't selling them, and that's the predicament that we're in. So I can appreciate them finding some other alternative of income. Is this going to spread to the other vintners and people who own land? Well, first of all, the grape growers are an old bunch. We're in our 70s and our 80s. It's not a young person's game to buy into a multi-million-dollar piece of property and then invest in it. They're pretty much what you see is what you get, and they've been built there a long time. And at this point in our lives, I don't think many people are anxious to get into the hospitality business and cleaning up, picking up trash and cleaning toilets and doing the things that are required in an RV park, which is something they absolutely know nothing about. So you've got the age and you've got this new thing coming on. I mean, maybe somebody younger would come along and want to do it, but I don't think this is the go-to plan for vineyard owners to pull themselves out of this economic crisis that we're in. You know, the conversation at the dinner table isn't going to consist of, well, we didn't sell grapes again this year. I guess we got to put in an RV park. Yeah, okay. Not a rescue plan. Now I'd like to just talk briefly about the permit process. If you're a professional builder, you're pretty familiar with the permitting process. And if you're not, and you have a project that you're contemplating, the scariest words that you're going to hear is, well, I think you might need a permit for that. And then that throws you into what is this going to cost me in terms of time and trouble and expense. But actually, it's a pretty good thing. It's a good system. I've done a number of projects that I've had to get permits for, and I had no idea of the underlying infrastructure that I had to have, the electricians' codes, the rebar standards, the cement packages. You know, I didn't know that stuff. I could have just, well, I'll just, pour this myself. Why do I have to go through all this? So, the permit process it's not enjoyable, but it's important, and I think it's a good thing to go through. I know some people are terribly allergic to it and will avoid it at all costs. Won't name any names, but the Kirkland folks, I think, got into this, and they were surprised at the process. And they've talked a great deal about the number of times they went back, the number of times they worked with staff, the money that they put out to comply with it. And it was all done in good faith, and they were amply supported by staff, by county staff, and eventually they achieved an approval. And that decision was also ratified by the commission. And what's also part of this process is for someone to come up and to challenge that. And I think that's also a good thing. But this particular challenge didn't come after negotiations face-to-face failed, that the two parties got together and tried to discuss their differences. It was an 11th hour appeal, and essentially they turned the fire hose of disinformation on the process and pumped a lot of half-truths, fallacies, erroneous opinions, and in some cases, lies. And if you had the time, and I hope you had the time to review that document that rebutted all of these things, if you haven't, I can assure you that most of, not all of the party that's objecting to this was refuted factually, with pictures, with everything, and still we're going on. And as a citizen of the county, we'd like to think that you submit yourself to the process. You take out the permit, you pay your fees, you're given a set of requirements, you work diligently to approve them and get them and put it into place. You're given all the approvals down the line, and then at the 11th hour, somebody comes up with some outrageous accusations, and we're just hoping that the commission doesn't derail this process because of something like this. I think staff did an adequate job, a more than adequate job, supporting the applicant through this process, and it's been ratified, as I said again, by the commission. And I hope that you see this for what this is. We're in an appeal process because from an acrimonious individual who's threatening, and all of his claims and what the attorney has presented are completely unsubstantiated at this time. There's no proof supporting any of this, just accusations. So that's the decision you have in front of you, and I hope you come to the right conclusion. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes. Oh, good morning. We'll get that.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. My name's Diane Hendricks. I just put this together as I've been listening today. Mr. Sweat opened with saying that this isn't a popularity contest. I believe he had to say that because he knows a lot of character of who he's representing, and I do think it's about character. I think this person came to the county and purchased a property, but before he purchased it, did he do his due diligence? This was brought up in one of the other meetings. Did he not see the protection facility, the Brisky trucks, or the vineyard as he drove by to view his potential home? Did he not see the RV that was already there? All of these things were in place. It seems he didn't, or maybe yes he did, and maybe this was part of his plan, thinking he could roll in and unravel what has been properly permitted and maintained for years. I say this because it's his own history. There's a town in Oregon that kicked him out, and he bullied them. This is public knowledge. It's on the internet, not hearsay. And I'd like to ask the boards to consider character, because to not allow someone of this character to threaten with lies, in his words, his deep pockets, his lawyer, and bully everyone in his path. This is a choice of right and wrong, and also the future of the county. You know, the Williamson Act is left to the county to interpret it as they see fit and what's right for your county. They're arguing that this one small boutique destination, RV destination, is going to set a precedent. So I ask you, do you want to allow him to set a precedent? A precedent that's okay for people to come in and bully good standing people. The county has control of each project, so this is not something that everyone's going to do if you allow this to go by. I do want to mention too, Jim spoke to all the neighbors, and they were told lies, and they apologized to the Kirklands because they were not given proper information. They never received their packets because somebody tore them up before they got to them. Yeah, I guess that's what I have to say, because I do think that this piece of it is very important for the county. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Susan Kohler Anderson, and I'm a 7th-generation cattle rancher in Amador County. So I've seen a lot of Williamson Act land, and I'm old, and so I know some stuff. But what I've seen when I just want to talk about the character issue briefly too, because I researched Mr. Bentatu a little bit because I was kind of in shock. Why would somebody come in brand new to our county and just start bullying and threatening and harassing, a good neighbor? It just didn't seem right. It's not usually how folks are in our county. And so I researched him a little bit, and it wasn't difficult to find him up in Washington. He has a commercial marijuana grow in Whatcom County, Washington. And I looked through their planning commission, and there's thousands of letters and packets opposing, this commercial marijuana grow. That's kind of what he does. That's his business. And I think there weren't even codes and things up there in that county. And a lot of the work he did there, he did on his own without permits. And so the neighbors all complained. And to try to make this brief, the county let him do that. They let him have a commercial marijuana grow there and rewrote a code or whatever for him. Step over to Lopez Island, Washington. The same thing there. He owns some waterfront property. He wanted to have a commercial marijuana grow, and the citizens rose up against him, and the county officials went with the citizens. They basically ran him off Lopez Island, and there were many threats. He was going to sue everybody, bragged about his deep pockets. This is all public record. You can look on those counties and see their county officials, just like yourselves, your counterparts, what they had to deal with up there. And so there's two ways to go with this. It's just that character is there. I mean, there was one point where they had a lawsuit against him, and he had to go take anger management classes as part of a judge ordering him because of the personality that you're dealing with. So just to let you know that there's a personality that, now is in our county that we probably need to be a little careful around. Not that he followed through with any of his lawsuits. It was all smoke and pony show, but for some reason that's how he comes into a new area. And I don't like it. I don't like that for Amador County. I just want you guys to know that and take note of it because it kind of comes into play here. And I think neighbors should be good to each other and support each other. And there's nobody like Greg. Oh my God. Have him for a neighbor? You're covered. Anything he ever does is top notch. And Jim and Dina, who wouldn't want them for neighbors? So I don't know why he came in that way, hot and heavy, but that's all I have to say. I just think it's an issue. Thank you.
We have a Zoomer. Take a little break in the audience. We'll come back. Oh, don't worry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Peters, please go ahead when ready.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Robin Peters. I've been listening to this hearing, and I listened to the Planning Commission hearing, and a few common themes ran through both hearings. And I just wanted to clarify that there are several layers of uses permitted for this property and several layers of impacts associated with those permitted uses. And the first is those uses that are permitted by right in the zoning district. Anybody with this zoning is entitled to those uses, and those uses include large gatherings, small gatherings, weddings. All of those are associated with the zoning district itself. They can't be taken away, they can't be bargained away, and none of those uses or the impacts associated with those uses are a discussion point today. So weddings, impacts associated with weddings and large gatherings, not an issue today because those uses are permitted by right in the zoning district on this property and many of the surrounding properties. The next layer is uses that were added through the conditional use permit process in 2019. That process went through CEQA. The impacts associated with agritourism, which is what those uses were evaluated and considered, and the use permit was ultimately approved. And now those conditional uses are permitted, and the impacts associated with any of those uses, those are not a discussion point for today either. The only thing on the table today is the minor amendment of the existing use permit to add a few RV spaces. That's it. Nothing else matters. And I would argue that the incremental increase in impacts associated with adding a few RV spaces to all those other existing permitted uses, those impacts, if any, are de minimis and insignificant. And those are the only impacts that we can talk about today. Nothing else is on the table today. This is not a project. I hear the word project thrown about today. This is not a project. The project is already in place. It is the use permit that we're seeking to amend today by adding a few RV spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Any other Zoomers?
Not at this time.
Okay, we're back to public comment. I've seen you looking around, so I figured you were waiting your turn.
Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is David Guthridge. I am an environmental consultant employed by Kirkland Ranch, and I have been involved in the process since February of this year. I wanted to make a few points. I have been in Amador County since 2006. We kept an RV in the 49er. We were up there every weekend. 2021, I bought a house in Sutter Creek. So we've been here for almost 25 years. We have been to almost all of the wineries in Shenandoah Valley. My wife loves wine. I have watched the Shenandoah Valley wineries. When we first went, they were wineries. And then they started adding restaurants because they wanted to have people have the opportunity to sit, eat, and drink more wine, buy more wine. Then some of the wineries have started to have concerts. Some of them once or twice a year, some of them on a monthly basis. Change is what drives the economy. We have agritourism, which is what supports most of the businesses in this county, the restaurants, the stores, the wineries. There's a constant change. And there's a constant need to try to find new ways to attract people. And Kirkland Ranch has come up with this limited boutique RV place. We're talking about 9 RVs. They're not all going to come at the same time. They're not all going to be here 12 months a year. Within the documents that have been approved, the stay is limited to 30 days. They're limited to no more than 4 occupants per RV. They can only come and go in daylight hours with the RVs unless there's an emergency. This is an attempt by Kirkland Ranch to expand their income. They have filed with the county the reports required to show primary and ancillary income. I have seen those reports, and the ancillary income is half what the primary income is. There was a previous speaker who seemed to think he had all the financial information. That information filed with the county is privileged. Public can't access it unless they have a subpoena. So where he got those numbers, I don't know, but they're not accurate. Speaking about the sand fire was stopped at the Kirkland Ranch because they had fire breaks and they had equipment and they assisted CAL FIRE. Nobody talks about stuff like that. because nobody knows about it. They took care of it, didn't make a big deal. There was talk about Gold Beach being a rundown RV park. Well, Gold Beach is in El Dorado County. It's not within Amador's purvey. And I'm sure if it was, that the county would take appropriate action and clean it up. I agree, it's not a well-run operation, but we're not here to discuss that. We have 8 acres of grapes. We have a wine building that is leased for the production of wine and bottling, and they can have wine tasting. There's an income from that that exceeds the income of the rental house, which is ancillary income. They're not making money on the grapes this year. They didn't make money last year. A lot of wineries didn't make money. 60% of the grapes last year rotted on the ground. We all know that. The valley is hurting, and we need people who come up with new ideas to try to stimulate the economy, or it's going to crash. It is crashing. I've seen in the last 2 months 500 acres of vineyards ripped out. They're not going to be replaced. So that's loss. What we've done here is not take any ag land out of production. We have not done any grading on undisturbed native soil. The RV area, which is about half an acre, was a previous parking area for the truck shows. We have aerial photographs going back 30 years showing that. Greg scraped the grass that was growing on it, and we put some crushed asphalt pavement to give it a little better surface. That was not a grading job. It was maintenance. There's been no other grading done on this property other than what was under permit to expand the entrance, which was required by the county. And we have done some exploratory leach field investigations under permit from the Environmental Health Department under the supervision of Robin Peters, and reports were filed. We have replaced the septic tank at the main house, again, under a permit, inspected, signed off. The new entranceway was inspected and signed off. There's been no work done on this property without the blessing of the appropriate county departments. I have been at the county almost on a weekly basis, working with staff, planning, building, public works, environmental health, to ensure that the amendment to the permit was done completely, all the paperwork necessary, all the studies, everything that was required. It went through review by all the departments involved. You've got their recommendations to approve. The Planning Commission had that same information, and they approved it. I'm asking that you, having reviewed all that stuff, and some of you have actually come to the ranch, and I've met you there, and we've walked you through, you've seen for yourself. So I'm asking you that you deny this appeal and allow us to move forward. If other wineries or other property owners want to go through the process, that's why the process is there. We have a system of laws and permits. We have followed that. We have done everything we could do to be in compliance. And to have people come up and use a shotgun approach and say, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this, and throw out financial numbers that they have no access to, that's just wrong. You have to make your decision based upon the facts that you have and the actions of the county staff. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Any Zoomers?
Not at this time.
All right, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second?
All right, we had a motion by Supervisor Brown, and a second by Supervisor Neto to close the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And we're back to the question. Any comments, discussion before we ask for the motion?
I can begin.
Okay.
First, I just want to thank everybody. That was the most compelling public hearing I've been a part of. It was very mannerly, and I honestly came in here completely undecided with an open mind, and the fact that it remained civil allowed me to hear the arguments from both sides, so I'm very appreciative of that. I was asking myself why I ran for this office, and two of the reasons were, one of them was, two of the many reasons, but one of them was an attempt to preserve a way of life for my grandchildren here in this community, and, well, my kids too, and I guess me, but the other one was to support local business. There were a lot of compelling arguments, but honestly, which one preserves the way of life best? And I've found that this incessant threat of lawsuits, I mean, I've been in business for 30 years and 99% of it's been on a handshake. That's the type of community that we live in, and I know that many people moved here from other places because of this constant threat of lawsuit. It seems to be the way other places interact with one another, and it isn't the way that we interact with one another here. And it also appears to me to be an attempt to subvert the democratic process and not allow these hearings and not allow the public to speak. Some of the other issues I was writing down, if there was a fire near me, I would love it if Brisky was sitting next door with a dozer and a water truck. I remember during the Butte fire, Josie over in Calaveras County, he had a line cut around his whole property. He was driving around with a water truck, putting the fires out. His neighbors were appreciative. So I guess if both arguments were equal, I guess what's tipping me is I agree. I don't like the utter lack of neighborliness of laying about with threats.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say, sorry, I just feel that's far more detrimental than a couple of trailers.
Sorry.
I
Pause.
thought I was done, but I forgot that part.
Okay. Supervisor O'Neill.
Yeah, I think we're not here to look at who's good, who's bad. You know, I don't want to get into that. I mean, that happens. It's part of the process, I guess. I will say one thing that cast a little shadow of doubt on things that were said was I looked at some photos that Mr. Benetou sent me from about the project, and I was quite taken aback that, Briskey's and Kirkland had placed their project so close to his fence line. I mean, it looks like, 50 feet. So when I ended up looking at it, the project is probably 350 feet from the fence line. And so if you're going to post something, make it factual. I think one of the big questions here is, you know, does this fit into the Williamson Act as a secondary use? And along that same line, well, a little offshoot, there's been a lot of activity in Shenandoah Valley. I witnessed a lot of it, whether as a supervisor even before, and people put in, well, let's see my notes. You know, people have had vineyards. I'm sure a vineyard is probably, can be an imposition on neighbors sometimes. You have people that are tilling the land and they're managing the land, they're in tractors, there's some spray, but a vineyard's kind of pretty too, so it's nice. Then the wineries came along because people said, hey, we're having a hard time selling our grapes. There were some wineries here originally, but people couldn't sell their grapes. They said, well, let's do a winery. And that may have affected some of the neighbors, but we thought, hey, it's business. People have property rights. Wineries went in. Then we had concerts, which I kind of have
some heartburn over the concerts, because I think it's been, the first one or two venues are probably great. But as they got more and more and more, and as somebody said in Shenandoah Valley one time, it's kind of like, it's nonstop music at times on the weekends. Then we got weddings. You've got outbuildings. That's probably a little bit of an effect on some of the neighbors at times, but it's part of having a business. I kind of see the same thing here. You have somebody looking to a business, might have a little effect on a neighbor, but I mean, neighbor has a house over there, that probably has an effect on the Drufers and Kirklands, but they need a place to live. So what I'm saying a little bit is a little bit of give and take in life. The traffic on Bill Road, there probably could be some traffic, but I mean, I would say a lot of the trucks hauling grapes are probably gone. The wine, vineyards are gone. The farm workers going to work in the vineyards a lot of them are going to be gone. And I think even the amount of traffic going to the wineries is reduced. And I'm looking, saying, okay, what do I see? It's like those people that came from Switzerland that time to our ranch. It really shocked me when they said, hey, they wish they'd stayed longer at the ranch in Disneyland. They were disappointed in Disneyland. What they came to America kind of afforded, they wanted to see or they liked was they saw it at the ranch. And I think you're seeing that, whether it's Switzerland or where it's the people down in Silicon Valley, the Bay Area that live in concrete jungles. They're wanting to get out into probably what's still left of old, real America. And they'll pay to do it. So I guess the question is, is this something that's, one question I have as far as they're talking about the, as far as the ag worker housing, that wasn't in notice. There's some allegation. Is that correct, Greg? The public notice?
That is raised by the appellant, and I would defer to planning staff and in terms of whether that aspect of the application was
properly noticed. Yeah. And I one thought of having that. If it was not, could they just withdraw that? Ask.
They could.
So the notice was for 10 spaces, so them designated as farm worker, essentially it is referring to a different code, but they are further conditioning one of those spaces that was originally part of the application. So I don't know,
Would it be permanent housing then for the farm worker caretaker, or would it be under the provisions for the other 9?
From what I understand, the application was for the 10 spaces to be short-term. So it is, if it's for farm labor, then it would be for a different term, obviously.
Well,
I don't know.
A use permit to allow the farm worker labor quarter or RV space is a completely different code section.
So, if that's the recommendation, I'm sure we could say that they should resubmit that section and withdraw that from the part of the project.
That'd be my recommendation.
So, I guess it's up to them if that's up to you guys.
And one more, Krista, while you're there, had a question. Because I met with Spencer Jones and Josh Lyman. They brought up about Gold Beach, which kind of concerns me because Gold Beach is, well, we know what Gold Beach is. I read in there somewhere there's a 30-day restriction on stays, like a limit per stay, 30 days, is that correct?
So 30 days is what is defined by the state as being a temporary residence. So anything longer that would be considered permanent occupancy or permanent residency.
And their permit wouldn't be allowing that, correct?
No, it's for short term except for the designated farm labor.
Okay.
But Chuck called attention, it is referred to as the farm labor housing in the notice that was sent to the Planning Commission and the board. So.
Okay.
It was in the notice.
It was in the notice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up.
It was also addressed in the draft conditions too that were approved.
So is it limited in term? farm worker labor quarters?
No. I
Well,
don't believe so. It's
Use
only the
permits may be
short
granted
term.
on a 2-year renewable basis. Oh, no.
Oh, it's a 5-year for the farm
Okay.
worker housing. Yeah, that's the term.
Oh, is it in there? Is it?
That's in the conditions.
Okay.
That wasn't in the notice, though.
No, but it's included in the condition.
Correct. Which is consistent with the code requirements.
Okay?
And it was noticed.
My comments, I mean, it was asserted that the economics is a driver, which I think that's what most everything is driven by, I'm pretty sure. Life is driven by economics. Williamson Act issues, definitely take those to heart. I mean, I really appreciate Robin Peters' comments, kind of describing what the actual issue is, as opposed to everything else. It really is just talking about the extra 10 spaces. I went out the property. I think I owe it to both parties to go out and take a little look-see. I mean, on the very far end of the pad, you could see, I suppose, the RV's parked. Depends how long the RV is, really, I guess. You could maybe see it from the other guy's house. The neighbor, I thought, was kind of curious, too. He built an ADU on the fence line. If that was a huge issue, then why did he build it so darn close to the fence line? We didn't want to look at it. I mean, it's like, I don't know if it's 300 feet setback. It looked like it's pretty cozy. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, 40 yards from the fence line, maybe, the neighbor's ADU on, next to the Kirkland Ranch. I mean, you could.
Look a little closer than that, maybe.
It's right there. I mean, it's.
Maybe 40 feet.
It's right there. To my understanding, it's permitted, but I mean, if you don't want to look at your neighbor's stuff, I wouldn't build an ADU right on their fence line to get a really good look at it. Just my opinion there. That's all I'll represent that as. Throughout the report from the county, I mean, basically it says repeatedly shall monitor this condition. And I think that's kind of the county's responsibility to monitor and keep an eye on, make sure that they're not violating any other issues. I mean, there's a number of letters from the neighbors thanking them, approving, and actually they seem to like the project. Yeah, I think viewing all that, especially focused at, I think Robin really helped focus the comments. I appreciate that because it kind of really dials it right down to what the actual issue is, and that's, do we want to approve the RV spaces or not? And it seems to me that that minor condition, I drove the road, a little rough, probably should talk to our county staff about brushing it a little bit, but that's probably my only comment there. But it's easily manageable. I mean, if they're driving tractors and grape trucks in there, an RV probably isn't going to be much of a difference. Getting to the ranch would probably be the issue, but that's where I'm at with it right now. Yeah.
Thank you. Supervisor Epperson?
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting situation, but I'm also an RV owner. My RV is not a $2 million unit. It's only, I know it, I won't be allowed.
Figured out.
And it's 12 years old, so, you know, most of the time you had those restrictions on RVs. Now, how many people know that there's places out there that have a 10-year restriction on RVs going in there? It's crazy. But it is the one thing that, it's how we visit I've visited places. You know, I've gone up and down the Oregon coast with my RV, seeing different things. And one of the things that I have a problem with is we have a lot of people that make laws over top of us that have never visited a rural area. They have no clue what a rural area is. And my pet peeve right now is this low resistance tires. Well, that's telling me that they've never been in the snow. They have no clue of what that is. So I'm kind of rambling here and I apologize, but I think this is a good project to start with.
Yeah. Personalities aside, I'm only a fourth generation Amador County on my mother's side. So I remember in the 70s, and Gold Beach was a dump in the 70s. I mean, it's no surprise to anybody. So that, even though it's in El Dorado County, I couldn't resist that comment on that. And I've been on the board 10 years, and Ken Deaver came maybe the second meeting that I was a supervisor, talking about agribusiness, agritourism. Now, what's he talking about? Well, we have tried to define that since. Supervisor Oneto and I were talking about that. It's this nebulous thing out here. And I think we need, personalities aside, we just need to look at, these are two people with a unique property that they want to add to their business and add to the permit that they already have to further enhance their income. And being a former business owner, I have always leaned a little bit towards pro-business, and I understand the arguments on the other side, but I think the old agriculture that we remember as kids is never coming back. So if we get if this new agribusiness saves ag land, our mission was we're an agricultural county. So this is just a different way, a new way of trying to save ag land for future generations, so.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because, hey, we like our ag lands, we like our open spaces. And, you know, hey, we got to pay our taxes. There's cost to owning land, believe it or not. One thing I can't remember exactly who said it. I think I might know who it was, but I'm not sure. Somebody said the neighbors all oppose this. Well, I received an email from Miss Cheryl Story Dimson, trustee of the Ann Story Ousley Trust. And they neighbor the Kirkland Ranch, border them for 3/4 mile. So I don't think that statement was quite correct that they made.
And she's for it?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Okay.
And that would, to me, that calls into question that statement they made, period.
Got it. All right, well, we're here to make a decision. I think it's time. Entertain a motion.
Well, I think I'll make that motion. I got friends in both, I guess you'd call it factions, so one part I hate about this job sometimes. I'd make a motion that the category exemption is adequate. And we approve the amended use permit with the recommended conditions of approval and findings, including the staff report.
Supervisor Oneta, are you also including the applicant submitted operational parameters as conditions?
Yes.
About the operating hours and things like that?
Yes.
All right. We had a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we had a motion by Supervisor Oneta, second by Supervisor Carnell. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And I would like to reiterate what Supervisor Carnell said. That was one of the more civil public hearings I've ever had to referee. So thank you all for your civility.
It was impressive, I'd agree.
Yes.
Informational.
Okay. We have another public hearing. Find my page here. 5B is, well, we'll give them a minute to clear, everybody get settled or move out. Give them another minute, Jack. Guess that's true. Okay, Planning Department is a request from Riverland Homes LLC for a reversion to acreage of Peterson Ranch Unit 3, reverting 15 parcels totaling 42.31 acres to 3 legal parcels of 5.34, 8.28, and 28.69 acres. The reversion would eliminate Unit 3 of the Peterson Ranch subdivision. The county, no work has been completed on the required infrastructure, IPN 038-690-019 through 033. With that, we'll open the public hearing.
Good morning, Chuck Beatty with the Planning Department. The current owners and developers of Peterson Ranch have asked that the final map for Unit 3 be rescinded and that those 42 acres be reverted back to actually 3 parcels because it's separated by some existing road rights of way now. And the subdivision agreement that was recorded for that project expired in 2019. But the county still holds about $600,000 worth of bonds on the improvements that were not installed. So no work was done, as you said, on the improvements for Unit 3, even though the map was recorded. So this would just wipe that back to a single or 3 legal parcels, and the subdivision agreement would be canceled, and the bonds would then be the owner of the bonds would be allowed to cancel those as well.
Okay.
I do want to point out the right-of-way that was acquired for the Climax Road realignment was part of Unit 2. That's been recorded. The county owns that, and it's not affected by the reversion of Unit 3.
We let them do this, will they take the road back?
To make that a condition, you get all of Climax Road.
Yeah, you could have the whole road.
Any questions?
No.
Any public comment on this? Any Zoomers? I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move. Second.
Commission, we had a motion by Supervisor Oneto and a second by Supervisor Epperson to close the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're back. Any more discussion on this, or we'll call for the question?
I make a motion that we approve the notice of exemption, appropriate to CEQA document, approve the request for reversion to acreage with the recommended findings included in the staff report.
Second?
Right. We had a motion by Supervisor Epperson, a second by Supervisor Oneto. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
With that, this meeting is adjourned.